Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar, the weather warnings, as we do have yellow warnings in for wind today and tomorrow, and then we'll have a look at the GFS, GM, ECMWF, GFS and ECMWF Ensembles, have a look at the mid to long range forecast, as the models today have put a bit of a spanner in the work. The last few days have been looking at potentially going very dry, maybe warm, but also some chillier conditions perhaps around as well. But the models this morning, or into this afternoon, are going for Easterlies again, very interestingly. Don't know if it's going to come off, but they are definitely back on board, perhaps, of seeing something much colder towards the middle to end of March. We'll also have a look at the UKMO Operational Run at the end of the video, have a look at the 5-day precipitation temperature with a lot of up and down in terms of temperatures. Could be seeing mid to high teens in the coming week, but also could see some cold overnight frosts. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure to like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, links in the description. So we do have a look at the United Kingdom live radar at the moment. You can see there are a few showers around, some in central southern England, some across northern England, and many in Scotland. Maybe a more persistent band there, a bit of snow over the higher ground, but that's not too unusual. But we have this approaching weather front in from the southwest, affecting parts of southwest Ireland and southwest England at the moment. And it's going to be spreading northwards and eastwards. There's a little vigorous low pressure system, and it's going to be bringing these really gusty winds and heavier rain. Now, we are low pressure dominated over the next 24 hours, but come the new working week, it does look like high pressure will really be settling things back down. There will be showers around, there will be cloud around. It's not a clear blue sky sort of high pressure system. There will be some drab conditions around. There will be some showers, some drizzle, but it should be generally drier, and we should be seeing some perhaps milder, even warmer days, especially further southwards. So you now have a look at the weather warnings for wind. Now, we had a look at these yesterday, so we'll skim across them quite quickly. Wind warning from 1 PM today until 7 PM. Spell of windy and wet weather during Saturday afternoon may lead to some travel disruption. That's that weather front moving up the head of the low pressure system. 50 to 55 miles per hour, perhaps as high as 60 miles per hour in the most exposed parts of Cornwall and southwest Wales, and maybe 45 to 50 miles per hour further inland. Now, if we have a look at the, we have another two more yellow warnings, on Sunday from 3 AM until 2 PM tomorrow for the north, across parts of western Scotland, southwestern Scotland, and parts of eastern Northern Ireland. Strong winds may cause transport and coastal disruption. 50 to 60 miles per hour along coastal districts, maybe 65 miles per hour in most exposed regions. And then we have another warning in force across western parts of Wales and southwest England again for 50 to 60 miles per hour southerly winds, and small chance we could see 65 miles per hour. So nothing too extreme, but again could cause some disruption. So if you are out this weekend near the west coast, make sure you do take the necessary precautions and do stay safe out there, and don't take any risks, of course, out near the coast. So we now have a look at the mid-range forecast, have a look at the GFS, GM and ECMWF. Now, as I said at the start of the video, we are seeing the signs perhaps of easterly winds returning, or actually arriving. We've seen a lot in the models over the last couple of weeks, as the tropospheric polar vortex and stratospheric polar vortex are generally breaking down as we head into spring. And it means higher chances of seeing very cold air leak out of the Arctic in a way of northerly or easterly winds. So if we do run through the GFS, you can see low pressure dominated over the next 24 hours. But by Monday, high pressure is building back in, especially further southwards, and we could be bringing up a balmy southerly wind for a period of time for the far south on Wednesday. And it could give temperatures into the mid-teens, maybe 15, 16, 17 degrees possible, feeling very spring-like. But it's going to get moved away pretty quickly, and we're generally going to go back under high pressure. Still milder air mass, but coming with the winds in off the east is going to feel a little bit chillier. But it's at this point, it's sort of day 5, day 6, day 7, when we start to build in easterly winds, pretty brisk easterly wind, nothing too majorly cold initially, but then we really start to put in some much colder air for the last third of March. You have a look at those upper air temperatures, getting down perhaps to minus 10 at 850 HPA, especially across England and Wales. Really quite cold. Could be some snow showers around, wintry showers, and overnight frost with that. And we just generally stay under that high pressure. Even when we don't have the cold air mass, we'll be probably seeing an inversion regardless. Cold overnight lows and daytime highs only in the mid to high single digits perhaps. So yeah, looking particularly cold. And if we have a look at those those temperature deviations, if we do run it back to when we are pulling in that real cold easterly wind, you can see perhaps getting down to sort of 8 to 10 degrees below average. Now, of course, if this sort of air mass came in January or December, it would be a bit below average, but nothing crazy in terms of getting down to sort of -5 to -10 at 850 HPA. But considering it's coming in mid to end of March, perhaps it's looking really quite cold indeed. Now, if this was just the GFS, I would probably just be disregarding this, but we are seeing this pattern come on the GM and ECMWF. Not exactly the same depth of cold, not the exact same direction of winds, but a very, very similar pattern. So we do have a look at the GM run, see how that does follow. You can see low pressure, of course, over the next 24 hours before we see high pressure come back in. And you can see those southerly winds perhaps by Wednesday bringing some warm air for a day or two. Then high pressure really builds back in, and right as we head towards day 10, you see it starts to properly get going, and then we start to bring in a southeasterly wind. Not quite as brisk and as cold as the GFS run, but you can see that cold air seeping through all the way from Russia, through Eastern Europe into Central and Western, Northwestern Europe, and you'd expect to give another day or two to see that arriving on the British shores. So could be really cold there as well. Not quite as cold as the GFS, but still chilly. And look at those 850 HPA temperature deviations, a good few degrees below average, and that would be heading towards the UK. Another way to look at that is dew points, real cold dew points showing the cold air mass and 2-meter temperatures. Of course, not going to be majorly cold as it is heading into March, but temperatures with that sort of air mass would still be mid-single digits, maybe even low single digits for some, feeling colder, and overnight temperatures below freezing. Now, if we do have a look at the ECMWF run, which is actually the most extreme run in terms of colder air today. Now, you can see low pressure is dominating over the next 24 hours before we see high pressure building back in. Sort of in between weather systems, further northwards and westwards you are, more likely are to see precipitation. And then we do build high pressure back in. And right as we head towards day 10, we start to build a bitterly cold easterly wind. Now, it doesn't look like a classic easterly wind here, a bit of a messier setup, but in this blue and green region of lower pressure, there is bitterly cold air mass. You can see it there getting down to -10 or below at 850 HPA, spreading into the UK. Real cold, those 2-meter temperatures well below freezing across much of Europe. Especially overnight. In the daytime, it's not quite cold enough to give temperatures that low in the day, but perhaps only 4 or 5 degrees. And look at those 850 HPA temperature deviation. Real cold, down to 10 or 12 degrees below average for this time of year. Real cold air mass spreading through Europe towards the UK. Now, all three models are showing a very similar pattern. Now, it's not guaranteed. We have seen this before, even just about a week or two ago, where the models were lining up perhaps for an easterly wind. But considering the consistency we've had with this cropping over the last few weeks, I'd be very surprised if it didn't come off at some point. So, very interesting seeing it today. As we'll see with the ensembles in a minute, it hasn't got massive support by any means, as it's still early days. It's only really cropped up in the latest few runs. But it's just something we need to keep an eye on, of course, as it could come a real shock to the system, considering we could be seeing temperatures in the mid-teens this week, 15, 16 degrees. And by the following week, or following weekend, could be seeing temperatures back down to 4 or 5 degrees in the day and much colder overnight. So if we now have a look at the ensembles, first have a look at the GFS ensembles. For London, you can see around average at the moment, so temperatures are going to be around average really. We're going to see temperatures rise quite significantly into the middle of the week with that much warmer southerly airflow. Only lasts maybe a day or two, but it could give temperatures in the mid to high teens, perhaps in a few spots. And then we see temperatures drop to around average, but there's a lot of very cold runs and a lot of around average or slightly above average runs. You can see good maybe 5 to 10 are below freezing, down to that -5 to -10 region. Perhaps in the longer term, generally dry, so still high pressure signal, and you can see the operational run there is on the colder end of the spectrum, but not a massive outlier by any means, and it's something that we really do need to keep an eye on over the next couple of weeks. No real consistency there in the longer term, so anything really could happen. If you look at those 2-meter temperatures, you can see come Wednesday, we could be seeing temperatures on some of the runs 15, 16 degrees, and these of course underdo it a little bit by a degree or two, so could be seeing temperatures up to 17 or 18 degrees locally. But of course there are others only going for 10, 12, 14 degrees, which again would still be pretty mild but wouldn't be that warm at all. In the longer term, still got some quite mild runs, but also put down by so much cold runs. You can see quite a few there are between 4 to sort of 7, 8 degrees, which is pretty chilly for this time of year, and of course would feel much colder in that easterly flow. And of course dew points, you can see pretty cold dew points in the longer term, not from all the runs, because all the ones with a bit of an easterly continental airflow all around freezing or lower than that. You can see the actual average of the ensembles are getting down towards freezing, so definitely does look like a continental airflow coming in off Europe. But whether it's a bitterly cold airflow or whether just a chillier airflow, that is what is yet to be determined. So we do now have a look at the ECMWF ensembles, see how those do compare. Now you can see average at the moment rising to well above average for the middle of the week on Wednesday, with much warmer upper air temperatures, and stay around average or a bit above average for a couple of days before we see a big drop away. And actually in the longer term, ECMWF Run is much colder, getting to around or below average for the last 10 days of March, and some going significantly below average, including the operational and the control run. Those are both run at a slightly higher resolution. Of course, the operational run's done at a much higher resolution, so perhaps they are tagging onto something. Again, not complete support from the ensembles. Some are going around or above average, and some going much above average, but we are seeing perhaps a trend to below average conditions, and again, something we need to keep an eye on. If we look at the 2 meter temperatures, you can see a lot of the ensemble members are now going for 15 to 17 degrees on Wednesday. Again, need to keep an eye exactly on those upper air temperatures, exactly how far northwards that warmer air does get. But of course, it could give warmer conditions in the south, but it's further northwards a little bit milder, as we'll see. A little bit colder, as we'll see with the UK Met Office run in a minute. But you can see, come Monday the 21st, you can see the operational run there, 4.2 degrees for the average, for the daytime high. With that much colder air mass moving through. So it's not going to be bitterly cold. It's not going to be freezer-like conditions like beasts in the east level, getting down to below freezing in the day. But mid-single digits, feeling really cold for this time of year. Of course, it's almost end of March, heading into April, when in April we can see mid to high 20s. So just shows you that we are still capable of seeing some much colder conditions over the next few weeks. Could be some snow, some wintry showers with this, but it's way too early really to call that in detail. So we do finish the video by having a look at the UK Met Office run, have a look at precipitation and temperature. Now, you can see early this morning, heavier rain pushed through before many people woke, but we've got this heavier rain pushing in from the southwest, fizzling away a little bit as it spreads north and eastwards, but still bringing some heavier patches of rain, some steadier rain over the course of the evening into the early hours of the morning, with a lot of showers around through Sunday, especially further southwards. Into the afternoon, some maybe heavy thundery showers as well across Ireland and central southern England. Beyond that, through Sunday evening into early hours of Monday, more showers around, especially further northwards. But through Tuesday, we're starting to see high pressure build up from the south, but a weather front pushing in from the north. It's going to be a bit of a battleground there. Colder air behind that weather front, milder air to the south of it in the higher pressure. Now, beyond that, as we move through Monday into Tuesday, you can see that high pressure does slowly win out and fizzles that weather front away. Eventually it does clear, and by Wednesday, Thursday time, the UK Met Office run, although it has a milder air mass, actually has that colder air mass winning out very interestingly there from this run. And again, if we have a look at those 850 HPA temperatures, you can see, yeah, much colder air mass does win out. So we do see that warmer air mass for a short period of time, but the UK Met Office run nowhere near going for that milder air mass, with that low pressure winning out significantly in the or that colder air mass winning out significantly in the longer term before high pressure building back in. So you can see even things at day 5 are not ironed out yet. So you can see daytime highs today, 10 to 12 degrees, around average really. Lows, nothing too cold, mid-single digits really, and through Sunday in the afternoon, once again, temperatures 10 to 13 degrees, a few areas maybe a little bit colder than that. Through Monday, overnight lows, maybe low single digits, and by Monday afternoon, perhaps 11 to 13 degrees. Nothing too crazy, but nothing too cold either. Through Tuesday, temperature slowly rising. 14, 15 degrees in the far east and south for many parts of England as well, but further northwards, much colder with that colder air mass trying to sink in. By Wednesday in the day, again, could see maybe 14, 15 degrees. As I said, UK Met Office run today, nowhere near going for that much milder air mass that majority of the mid-range models are. So maybe it's a bit of an anomalous run from the UK Met Office run, or perhaps it is picking up on something that the low resolution mid-range models aren't picking up on. So we'll have to see exactly with that, but at this stage it's still looking like mid-teens, whether it's 17, 18 degrees or only 13, 14. That's the sort of ambiguity at the moment. And then beyond that, Thursday evening at temperatures dropping down quite significantly. Wednesday into Thursday morning, temperatures dropping significantly as a colder air mass does build in with higher pressure, giving clearer skies. So you can see quite up and down over the next sort of 5 days. And beyond that, it does look like we could be seeing some warmer conditions, but also, as we've seen with the models today, cold easterly winds could be back on the cards for the end of March. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.